This is a homestead video on general use canning tools. The first thing you want to have when you're going to can at home is a good canning book, as recent a publication as you can find, because we learn more as we go along in canning, and the old books are not necessarily as accurate. This is my favorite book. It has all the why and wherefores of canning, and it has proper canning times and things like that, and all the recent understandings of what you need to do to make it safe. Then you're going to need your canning jars. They come in regular mouth and they come in wide mouth. These are called mason jars because of the closure. Regular mouth you want to use for stuff like green beans and canning pears, and wide mouth for peaches and pickles and larger items and things that are hard to get out of there. You also want to have, and these come anywhere from quart to quarter pint, depending on what you're using it for. And then you want to have a canning funnel, and you're using that to prevent any broth or brine or syrup from leaking through onto the counter. And you just stick it in there like that. And you fill typically to the bottom of the canning funnel, and that's usually your headspace. Headspace means how much room is left in the jar to ensure proper canning. And so then you have also, I use a butter knife, and this is to remove air bubbles from your product, because it will prevent proper canning. A lot of people say use a rubber spatula, but I use a butter knife. The spatula, they claim, is safer for your jars because the knife can, if you are not careful and you scrape the sides of the jars, it can make little indentations that weaken the jar, and that's the only reason they say that. Then you're going to want a ladle, and this is for pouring broth, brine, syrup, or water into your jars. Then there's lid choices. You want to think about whether you're going to use a single-use lid. These come in two-piece units, and you toss it away after you've used it once. The ring you keep, and you use that in corresponding either wide mouth or regular. And then there's also another kind of closure. It's a single-piece unit. Can't buy these except for from the manufacturer, and I only use them typically for fruit. And then there's also the permanent or reusable canning lid. You're just using your metal ring from your other canning lids, and it's a plastic lid with a removable rubber ring, and you can replace these if they go bad, which they do, but they're quite expensive to replace, so you might as well just buy a new box. So they do have some failures, which we'll talk about later in the Tatler video, yeah, they're pretty useful, and I like to use them, but you do have to know what you're doing. Okay, and then also there's a jar lifter. This is pretty invaluable because you want to be safe getting your jars out of the canner. That way you're not going to burn yourself. So then there's, of course, the other kind of canners. We got a water bath canner with a lid. Usually comes with a rack that fits inside. You don't have to have the rack, but you do need to put something between the jar and the bottom of the pan, so you want to put a towel in there if nothing else. Water bath is for high acid foods only, so fruits basically and jams. You don't want to ever can vegetables, meat, or anything low acid in a water bath canner. It does not reach a high enough temperature to be safe. And then there's the pressure canner. This is a screw down type, and they call it that because they've got these that come up over the top, and then you screw them down. And they don't have a seal inside, so that it is safer to can in because seals can fail. And so the pressure canner is for all your low acid foods. This is the pressure dial gauge. You want to have these checked by an extension agency before you use it. But you also have a backup here with the pressure regulator. I just call it a rocker, and they come in 5, 10, 15 pounds. But if you have it on 15 pounds, which is what I usually do, even though the book will call for 10 pounds pressure, then if something happens that it starts to pressure down, you have some time to catch the dispressuring down and do something about it. Otherwise, if it goes below the 10 pounds pressure on the gauge, or this stops rocking, then you're going to have spoiled food that you're going to have to start all over again on the pressure time, even if you were close to the end. So that's why I can at a higher pressure. But those are your tools for using when canning at home, and it is very safe if you research and know what you're doing.